Of Shmuel, are you here also?
Yeah, here I am.
Here you are. Hi, good to see you.
Good.
Hello.
So, welcome everybody to the Beit Midrash, Pirkei Avot for the past few months. And today we're learning Mishna, the 10th Mishna of chapter 2. Is there, can we have it on screen or shall we put it on screen?
I could put it on. I can share. There we go.
Great. So, Shmuel, you want to start?
Okay. So you have, I understand last week you have talked about a few of the Chachamim, as we can see here. Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, and we saw the different things they did. The different things that they said were important. They were, let me just say, they were all Talmidim Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, who were the founders, if you want, those who continued the Torah after the Beit HaMikdash, after the temple was destroyed in Yavne. So now we're going to have some sayings of the same rabbi. Still then it was their teacher, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who was asking them, what is the good way in life? What is the bad way of life? Here you have some expressions that these Talmidim had. So we start, each one had like a few things to say. Rabbi Eliezer, 3 things. Rabbi Eliezer omer, let the honor of your friend be as dear to you as your own. Okay, I think there's a lot of things. We'll do one by one. Yes, let's start with this one. Let the honor of your friend be as dear to you as your own. So this is an interesting line, because I think to most of us, it immediately seems to connect to the famous line we have in the Torah. Love your fellow as yourself. So it sounds very similar. The honor of your friend should be as dear to you as your own. But it's not the same, because we're not talking about the love here. It's not telling you love your friend as much as yourself. He's saying the respect, the amount of respect you should have towards him should be the same as the one you have towards yourself. And I think it's important to stress this point, because it's respect and love are not always, they're connected, of course, but they don't always go hand in hand. You can have a very close friendship and love and so on between 2 people, but there's a lack of respect in the relationship just because there isn't, one side is perhaps not so sensitive. He's saying words come out of his mouth that were not meant to be said. He didn't mean, but at the end of the day, he hurt the other's feelings. Honor and respect are actually slightly different things than love. And it's actually very interesting. I mean, now we're holding before Pesach, but after Pesach, we're going to the Omer. And in the Omer, in the Sfirat Omer, many had certain customs of mourning, not to cut hair or not to listen to music, or different sort of customs between Pesach and Shavuot, or part of the Omer at least. And the Talmud says these are based on the fact that the students of Rabbi Akiva died during this period because they did not respect each other. They didn't have enough respect for each other. So it's a very interesting point, because Rabbi Akiva is the man who is famous for saying, talking about love. Yeah, he's the one who says the most important thing in the Torah is love your fellow as yourself. But even his students, perhaps they had the love, but perhaps not enough of the respect and the honor. So I think this is already something to meditate on. When you see another person, don't just, your emotions are important, but there's something else. You have to be very careful, so to say, to give the other person the space that he deserves and the respect he deserves. So this is what comes to my mind when I look at these words. I don't know if Rabbi Natan, you want to add something to that.
Yes, I would. I connect to what you say. I would like to add a little thought of the word "be dear to you," chaviv alecha, which is another difference between the order ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha is an order, a commandment, and in many ways it's we usually take it as a moral commandment. You should love your friend as yourself, and it has many applications. And of course, there's the famous parallel between ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha and ve'ahavta et Hashem lokecha, that you should love your friend as yourself the same way that you should love God. Here, the directive is that the honor of your friend will be as dear to you as your own. And I think that takes us not so much to the moral area of commandment of how should you be moral, but more of the realm of how should you, how is it good to live, or what is the right path to take, which is actually what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai asked his students, right? When we learned 2 Mishnot ago and 1 Mishnah ago, when Rabbi Yochanan sent his students to the world to see what is the good path to take. I think that here, this is the realm that we are staying on. What is a good path to take? How should I, it's almost, how should I work on myself? The directive is not so much your friend, right? The directive in ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha is your friend. You should love your friend as yourself. It's important to love others. Here, I think the word dear to you implies a little bit, maybe, that it's even more about yourself. You should feel the dearness of honoring your friend. You should feel, you should see it appealing to honor your friend. It's something that you should look for. In other words, if you formally honor your friend, if you do it because this is the polite thing to do, if you're honoring, or if you're what was the word you used, Rav Shmuel?
Respect, maybe.
Respect. If you respect your friend just out of politeness, maybe that's not exactly what Rabbi Eliezer says. Rabbi Eliezer says is it should be dear to you. Look, search within you, and see what a feeling of respect towards other people does to you. And if it's not dear to you, then you're not going by Rabbi Eliezer's way. And I think maybe all of those 3 things, we will soon speak about the rest of them, but all of those things sort of go forward with the virtue, the big virtue that Rabbi Eliezer stated on the 2 Mishnayot before, right? When Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai asked his students what is the right path to take, Rabbi Eliezer said a good eye, right? You remember that Rabbi Eliezer said a good eye, this is the right path to take, and the bad path to take is a bad eye. And I think maybe here we see some example of what does it mean to have a good eye. It means that the respect of the other person should be dear to you. So this is my little adding.
Nice.
Maybe we will read all 3 of them, and then we could also hear what other people here in the Beit Midrash think about this.
Ve'al tehi noach lichos, do not be easily provoked to anger. Interesting point. Again, very much connected to what Natan was saying about working on yourself. It's not something that you can just decide one day, if I'm an angry person, that I'm going to stop being an angry person. It's maybe something you can work on. This is repent one day before your death. This is like the idea that we have limited time on earth to use it well. And then the last part, perhaps the most cryptic part, warm yourself before the fire of the wise, שנשיכתן נשיכת שועל, והקצתן לקצת הקרב, ולחישתן לחישת שרף, וכל דבריהם כגח לאש. So warm yourself before the wise, fire of the wise, but beware of being singed by the glowing coals, for their bite is the bite of a fox, and their sting is the sting of a scorpion, and their hiss is the hiss of a serpent, and all their words are like coals of fire. Right? So we have quite different statements here. One about not getting angry, another one about the limit of life, and the fact that we have to do tshuva quickly, because I think there's also it's brought down with the Rabbi Natan, the famous conversation that how this continued. He said, repent one day before your death, and the students asked, well, how do you know the day of your death? So they said, okay, so you should repent every day, because maybe tomorrow is the day of your death. So nobody knows when they're gonna die. So everybody has to be alert and aware. That who knows how long I'm still here for. And then you have a third thing, which seems to be implying something very quite interesting, that seeking Torah, obviously you have to seek Torah. I have to get closer to the Chachamim. But getting too close might not be such a good idea. So I don't know if you want to say a few things, Rabbi Natan, on this first.
Yes, maybe I'll add a few things, and then we will bring it for the other students to share what they think. Again, don't be easy to be provoked. Again, it's something that is really, I would state that it's also connected to a good eye, right? When I'm seeing something, what does it make me feel? It's, I think, something very, very strong, maybe in our era more than any other time in the history. When I see something, how do what interpretation do I give it? And many things that we see in the news or around us could make us very angry. And this idea of you can choose, yeah, it's not like we say today, many times in our era, that our feelings are something that come up within us that we're not totally in charge of, right? Many times, at least in newer generations, they would say something like, well, what can I do? I'm mad about this, or what can I do? I don't like it, or it disgusts me. And we don't see it that way. In our traditions, a person can be in charge of his feelings and decide that even if I see something, doesn't mean, even if it objectively it could make me mad, it doesn't mean that I have to be mad about it. And maybe it's also a question of a good eye. When I see something, do I use my good eye or my bad eye? Do I see everything through a prism of negativity or through a prism of positivity? I think it's something very, very strong. And the idea of doing tshuva, repenting one day before your death, is also like this. I think it's interesting that I think you, Rav Shmuel, read it in a little more of a strict kind of way. I read it almost as a joke, not in the light way, but a joke in the deep way. Like, really, you can never know what will happen next. You can really never know. So, what do I know what will happen tomorrow? What do I know what will happen the next minute? So if I want to live a good life, a life of a good eye, of a positive eye, it means that I have to live this moment to the fullest, thinking, well, I don't know what will happen next. I don't want to miss out. I don't want to get to a point where I felt like my actions led me to the wrong path. And so maybe next minute I will pass on. Maybe I will die. Not in a chas v'shalom way so much like Rav Shmuel read it, but as an opportunity to say, yes, this may be the climax of my life. A person many times waits for the climax of his life for a whole life. Every year he says, well, now I'm just here. Next year, that would be the climax of my life. Now I'm I'm now there's my rabbi used to say it a lot, that when you're a child, you say, oh, when will I be an adult? When you're adult, you say, oh, when will I be the boss in my work? When you're the boss, you're saying, oh, when will I retire? And in the end, a day before you're dying, you look back and you say, well, where was the climax of my life? So in that sense, Shuv yom echad lifnei mitatcha, repent one day before your deathbed, is actually saying, this moment is the moment. That's now is the moment. And of course, the last part is, as you said, Rav Shmuel, I think the most encrypted part. I see this part and I say, okay, so one thing is clear, that I am not a Talmid Chacham. So nobody here needs to worry about getting close to me, and not about what will happen if they get close to me. But yes, I think it's in a way it's also the same idea of using the moment. One hand, you should try to get close to the wise people, to the elders, to the people who you can learn with, who can mentor, or learn from, and who can mentor you. And it's important to have a person that you can heat up by him. But of course, you need to do it wisely, and to do it in a way that is only heating up and not burning out. Yeah. So this is a bit of what I understand from the Mishnah. Does anybody else here have thoughts about this? It's a very, in a way, it's one of those Mishnayot who sort of incorporate a whole person's life. We have those in Masechet Avot, not very often, but from time to time, we have this Mishnah that is sort of incorporates all of what a man should be. And it's interesting what Rabbi Eliezer chooses to describe for the different parts. So does anybody have any comments, any thoughts, anything they want to share about one of the ideas, or about all the ideas? Maybe.
Hello?
Yes.
So this just came to my mind, this thank you, by the way, very much. So I heard an idea that before one gets married, one takes care of his or her own ego. Once a person gets married, then he or she is supposed to take care of the ego of the other person, and not of his or her own ego anymore. So that sounds similar to the idea of the honor is dear, the honor of the other person is dear to me. But this context is not about marriage, right? So what do you think?
What do you think of, Shmuel?
I think that it definitely it applies to all relationships between people, and definitely to marriage as well. I remember actually, like before I got married, one of my rabbis in yeshiva was just saying that a lot of the advice that we give to a couple is just advice or things that you have to give anybody for life, for any sort of relationship, whether it's at work, whether it's you're sharing an apartment with somebody or whatever. It's just that because marriage, you're together 24/7, the things you do, whether it's for good or for bad, are much more powerful. An argument with your colleague at work is not going to cause the same amount of damage as an argument with your spouse. But the concepts and the importance of respect are definitely very applicable to marriage as well, perhaps even more.
Yes, thank you, Vadim. Any other ideas? Yes, please, Yeta.
Yeah, now I unmute. Yes, thank you. This words, lines of words, make it complicated a little bit. If, as you said, Natan, that you have to think positive, you have to have a good eye, and this you have to, your thinking is to be very optimistic to other people. So I think this lines is strange words in this chapter, a little bit.
In what way?
Because be not easily provoked to anger. Repent one day before your death. Warm yourself before the fire of wise, but beware of being sinked by their gloving goals. It's strange how if I compare with you, how did you translate this word to more simple talkings, to a more simple understanding? Yeah, it's strange. I think it's a little bit strange, more than ever.
If you can find a way to explain what is strange exactly, then maybe we can think of how to make it more understandable. But of course, we can also leave it like this. It's you feel there's something strange here.
Yeah, but you said something I understand a little bit more. You have to think like not a joke. Did you say that?
About this.
You say that, and this is not moral, but it's therefore I can't. It's a little bit. I can't explain it in English. I'm sorry. Because my English is not very nuanced. But I think it's, yeah, it's you have to think like a joke, and it's a good with to have a smile on. Then you have to be positive when you think about another guy or your neighbor or yeah, I think it's different what you both explained and what this text is on. The point of this text.
You think we didn't say the simple meaning, but something that derives away a little bit from the simple.
If you both of you didn't explain this, I couldn't have understand this. Really.
Well, this is one of the reasons we are doing Beit Midrash. Maybe.
But I think it's a little bit more strange, funny. It sounds a little bit not funny, but I don't know the English word for between funny and strange.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Okay,
dilemma, filled up with dilemma. Not a dilemma, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else, or should we move to the next Mishnah?
Let's move. Okay.
Maybe
Yes. So let's move on to the next Mishnah.
I'll say still on this end. I think there's an interesting connection between the beginning and the end of the Mishnah, because you were talking about, we started talking about kavod, about people's honor. In the end, we're talking about getting close to the chachamim, getting close to the wise, and yet being careful. A lot of the commentaries explain that the carefulness comes from, if you get too casual, you might lose the respect. And I think maybe this is maybe this is just an idea that's running through here a bit, like in this Mishnah, sort of like finding the, finding the balance maybe between your, in a way, it even fits into the rest of the Mishnah, because we start with talking about respect your friend, which is really respect. Put like be careful. Don't get angry again. Think before you act. Think before your emotions like jump out. Repent before your death. Maybe also like you want to do this, you want to do that. You want, like, put a bit of rational limits to it. Like, think about the fact there is a life. Your life is limited. You don't know what's going to happen next. And then maybe also when you come to the chachamim, there's also this idea that you want to learn everything. You want to get close to these people, but besides them being your teachers and besides them being very wise, they're also human beings with their life, and you can't disturb. You can't. You have to behave in a respectful manner. So I'm wondering whether there's a bit of a theme here in this Mishnah of like finding the right balance between your curiosity or your interests and your emotions and like being rational. Just a thought that came to my mind just now.
I think it really proves itself. It's a nice idea. I will say it in a maybe a little bit a different kind of tone. The end, I'm not sure it's that the wise or the elders are human beings. Maybe I'm reading it at least more towards the idea that being elders, being holy people, or being smart people, you should know that it's a serious thing. Exactly like fire, right? Fire, it's not that you have to have a boundary before the fire. It's that you should understand that when you're very far, you're cold. When you're closer, you're hot. When you're too close, you burn. So I think this is a very nice allegory to this idea that when you're looking for a spiritual mentor or for a intellectual mentor, for a rabbi, for a wise person to teach you or to direct you in a certain direction, you should understand it's a serious thing. I'm quoting my rabbi, which I loved very much. He said that we started the book of Vayikra talking about sacrifices, and we know the story, which we will read in a few parashot from now, about the two sons of the priest of Aharon who died because they sacrificed in the wrong way. They brought a wrong fire. And my rabbi used to say that it's like getting into a electricity room, a room full of electricity. You're going to be hit and to die, not because it's a punishment, not because you got punished for getting into the wrong room. It's just that when you touch electricity, you can't handle it. You die by its hit because you can't handle it. So in a way, this idea that you can maybe very similar to the sun. If you're looking at the sun too much, it's not good for you. If there is a lot of sun without enough defense, then you get burnt or things like that. When you're dealing with serious things, you have to understand that it's a real thing to learn from a rabbi, to learn from a smart person, to put yourself under the direction of someone.
Very good. Shlach koach. So the next Mishnah, Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Ayin hara v'yetzer hara v'sinat habriot motzin et adam min ha'olam. Rabbi Yeshua said, an evil eye, the evil inclination, and hatred for mankind, put a person out of the world. So maybe these are like terminology we have to translate a bit. So ayin hara, the evil eye, we've had that I think before already. We mentioned talk about the good eye and the evil eye. General evil eye means like you look at other people, you see the bad in them, and especially jealousy or envy is often called the evil eye, because you're seeing another person happy and successful. Instead of blessing him and being happy for him, you're feeling bitter about it. Why does he have what I don't have? So that's one thing. The yetzer hara, the evil inclination, that's the desire to do bad things, to do things which you shouldn't do. The sinat habriot, that's hating other people. So it's very interesting the word. It says motzin et adam min ha'olam, take person out of the world. So simply put, you could read the Mishnah in the style of, if you do bad things or you have a bad attitude to everything, this is not the right path. It's going to lead to the end of your life. This is not the right way to go. I once had a very interesting, perhaps a little bit of a twist when I was in yeshiva, that they take the person from this world, the Adam. Doesn't say he's gonna die, he's gonna get punished. It's like he's not gonna be a person who, you're not a person anymore. If this is what your life is, you're constantly seeing bad everywhere. You're trying to do bad, and you're trying to, and you're disturbed by other people's happiness, and you get jealous, you have envy, you have hatred. Then what sort of life is it? It's not a pleasant life. It's you're hurting yourself. You're not a real proper person anymore. So I think that's also an interesting thing, because very often we think like in a religious perspective is like there's like good deeds and rewards and bad deeds and punishments, but actually very often the bad deed or the bad thoughts, they themselves are the punishment, because they make your life unpleasant. So just a thought, if Natan wants to add to that.
Yeah, I'm going along your line of thought. It's a very interesting expression. Put a person out of the world. Like, I think it's something. Only that concept. Let's wait a second with what puts man out of the world. This concept that is appearing a few times in Pirkei Avot. What takes a person out of the world? We saw it in the first chapter also. Different things that put a person out of the world, and it's a very interesting expression. It's not those are the idea that you are in the world, right? We are in the world. We were born into the world. We walk on the face of the earth, but there are things that could take us out of the world. And it's not all things, not all bad things take us out of the world. Sadly, there are many potentially bad things that we could do, and still they're just bad things, but there are things that can take us out of the world. And I think that's a nice exercise to look onto ourselves and ask ourselves that. Like, and I think we will be surprised. Like, there are things that we tend, we talked before about being mad. Yeah, is being mad taking us out of the world? Sometimes being mad is actually putting us more into the world, right? We face reality. It's not good to be mad, but we're in the world. There are different things that we act on that maybe they're not positive, maybe they're negative, maybe they're things that we shouldn't do, but they still don't take us out of the world. What are the things in our experience that they sort of derive us a little bit from the experience of life, or from the experience of living in the world? I think it's a very, very interesting way to look at our lives and our way that the way that we handle our life. Many times we can feel that something is not good for us. So that's one kind of parameter. What is good for us? There are things that we maybe are negative, we shouldn't do, but they're not doing us bad in our feeling. Other things that really, when we do them, we feel this is bad for me. And here the criteria is different. What are the things, not that you feel is bad for you, but when you try to measure it, you're saying, yeah, with this thing, I got a little bit out of the world by doing this. I got a little bit out of the world. So I urge everybody to do that kind of exercise within themselves. And Rabbi Yoshua, and also the opposite. Like, what is the positive things that we do that bring us more into the world? Yes, what are those things that when we do them, we are brought more into the world? It's very good to give charity. It's very good to pray. It's very good to be nice to other people. It's very good to take care of the planet. Many things that are good, but what in our experience is not only good, but bring us more into the world, make us more part of the world. I think it's a very interesting exercise. So just by this expression, and what Rabbi Yoshua says, I think, is that anything that I'm looking to live other people's lives in a way, or to get away from my own experience, that is what takes me out of the world. If I have a bad eye, here is the sense, by the way, it's very interesting that when in the 2 Mishnayot ago, when Rabbi Eliezer said good eye, he said ayin ra'ah, right? Not ayin hara. Ayin ra'ah is really literally a bad eye, and there are many different explanations to what does that mean. Ayin hara, I think it really goes towards what Rav Shmuel said about envy or jealousy. Ayin hara is that you look on someone else and you want their things. Yetzer hara is also that you're not living your own life. You're living what your evil inclination wants, and not what you are, what you want, or what you're going after. And of course, hatred of the people around you. Hatred is we see it now when we're dealing with hatred, or when we are letting ourselves loose to hate another person. It really takes us out of the world, literally. We're not here. We're dealing with hatred. It's so terrible, right? We can disagree with someone. I think I don't know how many of you are involved with emotionally with what's happening in Israel. I know that as an Israeli, I'm very much involved emotionally. I'm thinking about it day and night, about the Israeli society and what we saw in the past few days in Israel. And I think a lot about this difference between what is disagreement, an argument, and hatred. Hatred. When does disagreement become hatred? When do I say, not only I absolutely disagree with you and I will fight for my opinion, which is absolutely fine, and to say I not only disagree with you, I hate. It's even hard for me to take out this word. I hate you. This is a huge difference, and of course, that is a good example to what takes a man out of the world when he deals, instead of dealing with what he thinks, what he feels, what he believes in, which is the core of argument. And Judaism is full of argument, right? We are sanctifying argument, but it's never hatred. And here it's not only hatred of Jews, it's not Sinat Yisrael, right? It's not this, again, it's not the idea of that you should love your brothers, you should love the people of Israel. It's hatred as a virtue, not as a virtue, as an inclination. To hate takes us out of the world. Yeah.
Perhaps somebody else would like to add something on these ideas.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that's a lovely words. It's full of meaning to understand. It's very easy to understand that and use it.
So it's good that we had this Mishnah after the previous Mishnah. Yes.
Okay. So I believe we can move on one more. We can squeeze into this evening. Rabbi Yossi אומר, יהיה ממון חברך חביב עליך כשלך, ועדכן עצמך ללמוד תורה, שאינה ירושה לך, וכל מעשר יהיו לשם שמיים. So one by one. Rabbi Yossi said that the property of your fellow be as precious unto you as your own. Okay, so this is about your relationship to others again, but it's very specific. You know, we're used to these nice big slogans, love your, well, the Torah says it, love your fellow as yourself. Earlier we talked about honoring people, and the honor of another person should be as chaviv, as beloved to you as your own. Here we're saying something different. We're saying the property of your fellow, the money of your fellow even, should be as beloved to you as your own. Which means that when I see another person's property, I have to think, it would seem, the same way as was my property. Yeah, you see somebody else's electronic machine in the rain. You try your best to protect it, just like you would your own. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And it's a very interesting thing because, often when we talk about big words, love and hatred, it's very easy to imagine something very grand and big. But actually, what often matters a lot more than these situations. A few people, have a horrible hatred against another person, and they would want to hurt him physically. But very often, when somebody else has minor problems, they're not terribly ill or anything. There's a small thing, some property of theirs, some object their own. We don't give to them the same. We don't worry about as much as we would if it was ours. And this is what is saying, that the real measure of respect and love towards others is that you're actually really, really worried about everybody else's needs. I remember somebody once pointing me out that in the Jewish world, very interesting to see how far tzedakah or charity goes, because the concept of charity is obviously an amazing international concept that exists in all cultures pretty much nowadays. And you have these huge organizations sending food to Africa, and these are amazing things. But in the Jewish world, there's a very strong feeling of like just looking after people's like perhaps very, very interesting needs. Like, you know, like, I don't know, you'll often find in a Jewish community, like somebody has toys and they lend them out, and a new newspapers, or there's a whole concept, the gemach, it's called the gemil chasadim. That's it. Somebody happens to have a few more, he advertised to everybody, you can borrow mine. The idea you can just help other people, because the real way of showing love and respect to others is actually that I want you to be happy in all ways, not just I'm going to save your life if you're in mortal danger. I mean, I want to make sure you have the coffee that you like, and I want to make sure that you have the magazine that you like, and I want to make sure you have the comfortable driving from home to work that you want, or whatever it is. So I think this line is maybe a bit underestimated, but it's very, very powerful, very important message in it. Would like to add something to it before I move on, Rabbi Natan?
Yeah, I think it's nice that we're bringing really two aspects, which I think sort of make it a whole picture. To me, I of course connect to what you say, but again, I'm underlining a little more. At least what I'm hearing here is what it does to me, not only what it does to my friend. Also from the word chaviv, which we had previously. Also here it's translated precious. Before it was translated dear. But to me that really makes a lot of gives a lot of meaning. Also, it's not only that you should give charity, or that you should. It's not only about your friend, that you should make sure that your friend has his newspaper, but it's about what do I care to make my business about? I want to have my, like, something is built within me. I'm changed. I'm changing myself. I'm changing my soul, or my identity, who I am, because I'm thinking not only about my property, but about someone else's property. It's dear to me. When I see someone else's property, I treat it as my own. I care about it. I understand that even though it's not mine, it's precious, and it builds something within me. But of course, it goes along with also the very idea of Milut Chasadim, to care about others as well.
Very nice. The next line, ועדכן עצמך ללמוד תורה שאינה ירושה לך. This is one of my favorite subjects when you study Jewish things, Tanakh, Talmud, and many other things. This idea, make yourself fit to study Torah, for it will not be yours by inheritance. Now, it's a very interesting thing, because if you look, this is like a pattern, you see, not just in the study of Torah, but you see it in general in Tanakh, in Talmud. You have a lot of people who, somebody's a great tzaddik, for example, his child doesn't turn out so well, or the opposite, somebody is born from parents who are not so great, and then he becomes a very, very great tzaddik. We see that with the kings of Israel. We see that a very bad king has a very good son, or the opposite. We see that in the Talmud, that great rabbis came from the descendants of converts, and the origins were evil Roman emperors. We see a lot of that. So I think this concept is very important, that things, obviously in the times of the Talmud or the Tanakh, it's almost like a revolutionary concept, because the way of life was very much, I am what I am, what I was born as. And my status in society was decided by what I was born as, by my birth. So the Torah says, no, you have to work hard to get where. If you want to get somewhere, you have to work hard. It's not going to happen by itself because of your parents. So in a way, it's a very, so to say, modern concept, but it's also a concept which I think even in the modern times is quite revolutionary, because nowadays there's a tendency to talk about genes and about the environment and many things that I've become what I've become because this is what I was brought up like, or these are the experiences I had. So sort of like limiting the free choice of a person. So when it comes to Torah, and I think this Torah study is the best example, because Torah study is something where really the background and the environment don't matter. And it's very interesting. We'll see. I think it's in a later Mishnah. I don't think we've had it yet, but the Gemara compares the Mishnah, Pirkei Avot compares kingship and kehuna, being a priest or being a king, which is completely based on, it's hereditary. If you're the family of King David, then you can become a king. If you are a descendant of Aaron, a Kohen, you can become a priest, a Kohen. To the Torah, which is waiting for you to study it. And there we're like sort of showing you the opportunity, even if your father or your parents or grandparents didn't know much about Torah, you can still become that very great Talmid Chacham. Here we're putting, in a way, the emphasis on the negative. Even if your father is a great Talmid Chacham, that's not a guarantee that you will. And I just think this is a really, really important principle, really, in Judaism, that it's your choices and your decision and the how much strength you put in it that really matters. The last line, Chol Maaseh Hayu L'Shem Shamayim, everything you do is L'Shem Shamayim. All your actions be for the sake of heaven. That's also a concept we run into from time to time, this idea that being Jewish or being religious is not limited to specific things, like praying in the synagogue, putting on a tefillin, putting a few coins in a tzedakah box. It's an all-encompassing thing. You go to work, you're thinking about how to be moral at work, how to keep the Torah when you're on holiday. Everything you should think about, how is this helping me serve God better? So like sort of being a Torah Jew is something that penetrates everything you do. These are the thoughts. I would be interested to know, Rabbi Natan, you're very good at connecting the different pieces of the Mishnah. So very interesting if you have any idea what these three things have to do with each other, because to me they seem quite separate. One is talking about your relationship with others. The second is talking about the ambition you have to have in Torah study, and the third one is more like just an idea of serving God in a very general terms. I don't know if you have something to clarify.
Actually, I do, but I don't know if you'll think it's stretching it out too much. But I think it's about what's yours. What is yours? So the first part says, there's your things, your property, and there's your friend's property, but both should be dear to you. It's even though in Western society we have this idea of my property, my things, the things that I am entitled to. Here it starts gently. Your friend's property has to be like, you have to treat it as your own. Then it goes in a broader sense. Torah, I should work for it. I should work for it and not feel like it's mine naturally. And of course, the third one is the strongest one, right? Which is my deeds also should be L'Shem Shamayim. I should think, I shouldn't think, what is my interest? I'm doing things because it's my interest to do it, but because it's L'Shem Shamayim, because it should be for the sake of God. And Rabbi Yossi, I think, sort of devalues this feeling of ownership and tries to say a good person has to live thinking about himself as a vessel, or as yeah, something like that. And there's much more to say, but we're out of time. I just want to, before we finish, just to remind that next week is Pesach. Around this time, it will not still, well, maybe already we will get closer to candle lighting. No, we'll be in the middle of the Seder now, I think. So good luck to everybody. Have a good Pesach this week and also the week after that. It's going to be the last holiday, Shvi Shel Pesach, and we will meet in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Pesach kasher v'sameach.
Yes.
Excellent.
Ach, Sameach.
Thank
Good
you,
Pesach.
Shmuel.
Thank you for
Thank you.
today.
Thank you, Natan.
Thank you very much.
Thank
תודה
you.
רבה.
פסח שמח.
פסח שמח.
חג שמח.